So babysitting arrangement is downstairs. You know the routine. If you have your children, younger children between 3 and 10, please send them downstairs. Or you need to sit with them because our speaker has come a long way and we do not, absolutely do not want kids running around. If you have, I see someone running, if you have kids, they need to go into the babysitting room. Or you need to sit with them and they cannot make noise. You know the routine, so I don't need to repeat it again and again. And can I request my sisters to really now pay attention to the program? Okay, who's making this noise? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We are going to start the program, as you know, because of Ashura, we are having the program first, and inshallah we will break fast together, and then we will pray Maghrib, and then we will have dinner together. So I'm going to ask Brother Yusufi Wali to introduce our speaker, and let me introduce Brother Yusufi himself. Brother Yusufi was director of ISBCC for a long time, and now he's working as chief of staff at Boston office, right? So mashallah, he's a dedicated brother, and loved working with him before, and good to see him. So here, Brother Yusufi is going to introduce the speaker. And one more time, please, for God's sake, please pay attention to. Okay, kids need to go in babysitting.
الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. I want to thank Brother Mohindin and Brother Tokir for helping us organize this visit. It is absolutely my honor here to have what I believe is one of the lights of Islam visiting us here today, Sheikh Riad Saloojee. He is someone that is has lived in Canada for many years. Was also trained in South Africa in Usul and Islamic jurisprudence, and now lives in Turkey with who I definitely consider the light of Islam in this world, Sheikh Mukhtar Marawi. He lives with him, is trained under him, and under Sheikh Mukhtar's guidance, he has really launched something called the Suhba Seminary. It's something that I hope you'll learn more about towards the end of the lecture. But more than anything, I just want to say that we are blessed to have him here in Boston. And towards the end, we'll share the other massages that he's here to visit over the weekend, inshallah. But for tonight, inshallah, we'll learn about how to be Muslim in the digital world, and then of course go into iftar and we celebrate Ashura. Thank you to the Masjid for again hosting us, and Sheikh, thank you so much for teaching us.
Bismillah. الذي لا إله سواه الواحد الأحد الفرد الصمد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I pray that all of you are well. may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your and our ibadah during this very special day of the 10th of Muharram, the day of Ashura. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala look upon our hearts with the gaze of His love and the gaze of His kindness, subhanahu. We are here together to learn, I hope, something about navigating the virtual world safely as Muslims, as parents, as sons and as daughters. So to begin, this is part of a larger seminar. The Suhba Seminary has about 32 applied learning seminars. And this is one of them. And it usually is about 4 to 5 hours long. But I'm going to try to summarize maybe 8 or 9 important points in the next 45 minutes, inshallah. So to begin, the concept of suhbah, or the concept of fellowship or companionship, is really essential in understanding how a Muslim ought to navigate the digital world. Suhbah, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the word in Arabic. It means fellowship, it means companionship. And we know through behavioral psychology, for example, that we model our models. Those that we take as our role models, those that we take as our exemplars, we end up modeling their behavior. And this is, you could say, a fact which is almost undisputed in behavioral psychology, that I will take on the values of my friend. And so Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells us in a very beautiful hadith, a very powerful hadith, and also a very scary hadith. He says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, الرجل على دين خليله. A man or a woman will be upon the faith, the deen of their close friend. And then he says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِلْ. So let one of you be very careful. Let them beware about who they take as a close friend. So here, what's really interesting about this hadith is that he says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, الرجل على دين خليله. A man will be upon the deen of his close friend. Why is that important? Well, we know that we follow the words of those who we model. We follow the deeds of those whom we model. We follow the behavior, the habits. But I think very few of us truly realize that in time, I will take on the values, the akhlaq, and ultimately the deen of the one that I spend time with. I will take on the deen of the one that I spend time with. One of the ulama mentioned very beautifully this statement, and he said, الطبع سراق. Human nature is like a thief, it steals. وَالْقَلْبُ يَتَأَثَّرُ بِالْقَلْبِ. Hearts are affected by other hearts. وَتَسْتَمِدُّ الرُّوحُ مِنَ الرُّوحِ. The spirit, the soul, draws from other souls. And therefore he says, فَاجْتَهِدِ. So make a lot of effort. أَن تَجِدَ لَكَ مِنَ الْأَرْوَاحِ الصَّالِحَةِ صَاحِبًا. Make a lot of effort, work hard to find companions that are beautiful souls. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, finally, Allah says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. O you who believe, have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And taqwa of Allah Azza wa Jal is not an idea. Taqwa is not a concept. Taqwa is a state of my qalb, is a feeling, is an emotional connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So many of us might know, I might know about taqwa intellectually, conceptually, but it doesn't mean that I have taqwa. Doesn't mean that I have that love, that fear, that reverence, that awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so Allah ta'ala says in this ayah, O you who believe, have that taqwa in your heart and be with those who are truthful. Because if I am with those who are truthful, I will learn to be truthful. And this is another testament to the power of suhbah, companionship. Because through companionship, feelings are transferred. Spiritual states are learned. If I'm with someone who is sadiq, which is truthful, I will become truthful. I will become truthful. Now, this is the first point. Just to emphasize the importance of companionship, fellowship, and the far-ranging effects to the point we said of deen, of those whom we take as companions. The second point, this is in the old world, the world of physical companionship, where you would meet people in real physical time. What about the virtual world? Is there something like a virtual suhbah? If physical suhbah is so powerful in its effect, is there a virtual suhbah? And many of us probably never thought of the digital world, the virtual world, as a virtual suhbah with the effects of a suhbah. By virtual world, I'm going to mean 5 things. 1 is video games. 2 is social media. 3 is messaging of all kinds. 4 is the internet more generally, because the internet is an environment. The internet is a suhbah. And finally, that which makes most of this possible, the smartphone. So when I speak about the virtual world or a digital platform, I refer to all of these 5. So the question for you is this: is virtual suhbah more dangerous than personal suhbah? Is virtual suhbah more dangerous for me, for my son, for my daughter, for my team, than physical suhbah? What would you say? Yes? Who? Yes? I'm saying on average now. On average. Why would it be more dangerous? Well, I think you could make a very strong case that it is, in general, for most of us, perhaps, more dangerous. One, it's more accessible and available. Fair enough? That virtual world, in all of its forms, with all of what exists in it, is accessible and available in a way that personal suhbah is not. Number two, it's private and personal. I can be in that virtual world, in that digital world, and no one can know where I am. And number three, it's extensive and encompassing, meaning I can go anywhere, speak to anyone, have access to anything, and literally almost everything, in a way that I cannot have with physical suhbah. Give you an example. In the old days, imagine the days of the village. Boy likes girl. Boy wants to spend time with girl. And it's a village. How do they do that? How do they communicate without being seen? How do they make plans without being seen? And everyone, unlike today, everyone is a father and mother. How do they meet? It takes probably an incredible amount of effort to be back. It takes a lot of work, a lot of ijtihad in the village for boy to meet girl. What does it take now? What does it take now for boy to meet girl? Well, boy can meet girl anywhere, meet quote unquote in the virtual sense, anywhere, anytime, without anyone knowing, in his room, in her room. Boy can meet not girl, boy can meet any girl. I mean, in the village, there's boy and girl, maybe a few boys and a few girls. Here, the world is the oyster of the one who seeks illicit company. So boy could meet any girl, girl could meet any boy, and they can text at any time, right? And they can send voice messages at any time. And they can send pictures at any time. And they can even video call at any time. So, it's very important as Muslims that we be realistic and not naive, especially as parents. The impact of suhbah, number one, and number two is the more perilous, dangerous harm of virtual suhbah. Number three is the internet and messaging and games and social media. Is it neutral? Well, someone says technology is neutral. Technology is neutral. A hammer can be used for good. A hammer can be used for bad. A knife can be used for good. A knife can be used for bad. So here is Sean Parker, the former, I think, CEO of Facebook. He says, basically, Facebook and our work on Facebook is meant for the purpose to consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible. The point being that the virtual world in many cases is built to be addictive. It's not neutral. It's built to be addictive. The fourth point. Usually, when we are in a negative or positive Suhba environment, I usually do not recognize the changes in me immediately, because the changes take time. When I was younger, I remember Imam Siraj Wahad. I remember something he said, I never forgot it. I think I must have been either in high school or maybe early university. And actually, they have done studies of this. And the general principle is this. They took a frog and they put the frog in, they dropped him in a pot of boiling water. And lo and behold, the frog jumped out immediately. Then they took the frog and they put him in lukewarm water. And they slowly turned on the heat bit by bit by bit. And what happened? The frog boiled to death. When I'm in an environment, I often am very unaware of the changes in me. Until perhaps it's too late, or until someone else notices it. And so, if I am, if we are, if our children are in negative environments, both in the virtual world and in the real world, in the physical world, our values will start to change bit by bit by bit. And then it may be, after a period of time, that there is a radical change. Are you with me? A radical change. And there are many examples of that. Dad, mom, I don't want to believe this anymore. Where did that happen? How did that come from? That's not simply someone waking up and making that statement. That happens over a period of time, a period of gradual effect. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and you know, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. Says, O you who believe, do not follow the steps of shaitan. Allah Ta'ala didn't say in this verse, do not follow the shaitan. That's obvious. But following the steps of shaitan is less obvious. Because that first step may not be haram. That first step may be excess. That next step may be something reprehensible. But step leads to step leads to step. And so when I am, hafizakumullah, in an environment that is positive, but here we speak about negative, the changes are incremental. And the changes will happen in values and akhlaq, and they may become a rejection of constants in deen. Constants that ought never to change. Not variables, but constants. Point number 5, the harms. So the harms of cell phones and the harms of social media and games, etc. The harms of that are well documented, and so I'm not really going to do that. The harms being, cognitive harms, intellectual harms, that generally these technologies make it very, very difficult to focus. These technologies make us multitask, and multitasking does not lead to better quality or quantity. These technologies overload us with information, and the cognitive load of information is so much that it's very hard for those who are constantly connected to this world to be able to think clearly, to synthesize and to analyze. social relation harms, where we begin to live reality on our devices. Which child doesn't complain of that regarding her parents' behavior? That we begin to live literally a virtual life. That, for example, the ways in which these technologies are made is that they create what's called new dopamine pathways in the brain, meaning they're made to be addictive. And dopamine is a neurochemical transmitter in the brain responsible for joy and pleasure. And so the technologies are such, they're made to release larger and more regular amounts of dopamine. And when that happens, then the old pathways in my brain, the pathways that found pleasure in reading, or the pathways that found pleasure in walking, or the pathways that found pleasure in dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jalla, or reading Quran, those pathways are no longer activated because they cannot compete with the dopamine pathways of video games or social media. And some have even spoken about surveillance capitalism, where surplus data of yours and mine through the regular interactions that I have, that data is used to create a psychological profile of me and is then used to market to me many things. And lastly, the fact that actually the same symptoms and physiological changes that happen in an addict, in a cocaine addict, are found in addictions to digital technology. Like what? Like compulsive use, dependence, isolation, distance from family and friends, emotional instability, irritability, anger, agitation when separated from the addiction. If any parent here takes away the cell phone of their teen, probably all of these are activated. Losing track of time, falling behind on responsibilities, and even physical withdrawal symptoms. Point number 6 is this, that as Muslims, we should not merely accept new technologies simply because they're developed, and sometimes because they come from societies or communities that are more powerful, richer, maybe more militarily supreme than we are as Muslim communities. And so generally we accept whatever is new. We accept the latest technology, we accept the latest fad because other people are doing it. And oftentimes it's because of a rational and a spiritual inferiority that we do that. We have our own values, we have our own rational principles, spiritual principles by which to judge what I should accept and how much of it should I accept. So I'm going to mention here, inshallah, of a few spiritual principles and a few rational principles in our deen that should help me decide how to navigate the digital world. If we had the seminar of a few hours, we would probably mention about 6 or 7 spiritual principles and maybe 6 or 7 rational principles. So the first spiritual principle is this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created me with a body, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created me essentially with a soul, or with a spiritual heart. And that spiritual heart, or qalb, has been given to me by Allah to know Him, to know the Infinite, to experience the Infinite, subhanahu, to seek the Infinite. This qalb that I have. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentions in a text the importance of this spiritual heart. He says, "Inna fil jasadi la mudghah." In the human body, there is an entity. إِذَا صَلَحَتْ صَلَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. If that entity is good and pure and sound and healthy, all of me will be healthy. وَإِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبُ. And if that entity is corrupted and stained and unhealthy and diseased, all of me will be unhealthy and diseased. And he's saying here, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that if my heart was sound, if my spiritual heart was sound, my words would be good, my thoughts would be good, my feelings would be good, my actions would be good. But if my spiritual heart, my qalb, is diseased, my words will be bad, my actions will be bad, my drives inside of me will be bad, all of me will be corrupted. And so this qalb, in our analysis of anything, is probably the most important spiritual component. How does this affect my qalb with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How does this affect my spiritual heart? Because by the qalb, we know the infinite. By the qalb, we experience the infinite, subhanahu. And by the qalb, I seek the infinite. And what kind of peace, what kind of happiness, what kind of joy, what kind of security comes when my qalb is connected to the infinite source of peace, of security, of love, of kindness, of goodness. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in an effort to help me keep my heart clean, my qalb pure, He tells me, subhanahu, do not sin. Because every time I sin, every time I disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in a simple way, I stain my qalb, I stain my heart. And when my heart is stained, it will not be able to see, like a mirror that's distorted, or a lens that's broken. My heart is like a mirror. My heart is like a lens. If my heart is dirty, stained, sullied, broken, it will not be able to reflect the realities of the other world. It will not be able to reflect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's beauty and majesty. And so Allah ta'ala tells us, leave sin. وَذَرُوا ظَاهِرَ الْإِثْمِ وَبَاطِنَهُ. Leave the external of sin, meaning the sin I make with my eyes, with my hands, with my tongue, with my ears, with my feet. But Allah Ta'ala says, leave the internal of sin. Leave sin that is inner. What sin is inner? What is inner sin? What is internal sin? The sin of the heart. What are some examples? Envy, hasad, jealous envy. Hafidhatullah. What else? 10.
Desire.
Illicit desire. Some desire could be good. Illicit desire or shahwa. That's an internal sin. What else? Anger, excessive anger. Ghadab. What else? These are like the diabetes of the heart, the cancer of the heart, the Alzheimer, the Parkinson's of the heart. If I had cancer, I would find probably the best doctor, and I would spare no effort to pay whatever I needed to be cured. Yet these diseases of the qalb are worse than cancer. They're worse than Parkinson's because they affect my akhirah. They don't simply affect my dunya. What else? Kufr, shak, doubt, hubb dunya, to be attached to dunya, hubb shuhra, to love influence, to love fame, to like to be known, to like to have many likes. Hubb shuhra, that's part of the diseases of the heart. Kadhib, lying, ujub, delusion, to feel that I am the source of my talents, and to speak about things as though I know them when I really do not know them. The point being, Hafizakumullah, that these are diseases of the heart. Now, when I assess my relationship with the virtual world, and we said that's games or messaging or social media or the internet through the medium of the smartphone, to what extent does my presence in the virtual world inculcate in me these diseases of the heart? Not merely the external sins, but for example, the disease of illicit desire, khalwa, to speak to someone who's not my mahram, disease of the heart. What about loving to be seen, loving to post my picture on Facebook, on TikTok, loving that? That's hubb tazayyun linnas, loving to be ostentatious for people. What about not simply verifying information properly and passing it on? Kadhib, lying. How about backbiting, speaking about others that which would hurt them even if true? That's ghibah. And so, when the Muslim analyzes their interrelationship with the virtual world, they have to take into account as well, what does it do to my qalb? What does it do to my heart in its relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So that's just one spiritual principle. Let's look at a rational principle here. If something is permissible, but its use will lead to a probable haram. This is a rational principle in Islamic legal theory. If something is allowed, but it's going to lead to, probably speaking, something which is impermissible in the Sharia, does that which is permissible remain permissible? Actually, I'm not sure. Actually, she was speaking to someone, not answering the question. Actually, I couldn't tell. She was loud. Would it be, actually, so I think you said it doesn't stay permissible, right? Yes, so actually in usul al-fiqh, alhamdulillah, that's part of the rational ways that the ulama argue based on deen. That something which is permissible and allowed by Allah Ta'ala, if it leads to an impermissible, probable harm, that which is permissible becomes impermissible. The ulama call this sadr al-dhari'ah. and almost all of the madhahib practically use it in application. Almost all of them. Even though some technically say they don't use it, in practical terms and in application, all of them use it. It's a way of rational thinking. Because Allah Ta'ala intended something to be permissible because it has a benefit. That's why Allah made it permissible. When the benefit becomes a harm, probabilistically speaking, as determined by the ulama, not by me and you, then that becomes impermissible. Ulama call this sadd al-dhari'a. They call it blocking the means. Because they assess the use of something with respect to a probable outcome. The alim, the scholar, the mufti, is always looking at probable outcomes. If I say this, if I allow this, if I give a verdict of this, what is the probable outcome of that person in that context? And if the probable outcome is harmful, no serious alim or even student of ilm would give that legal verdict. So the consideration of probable consequences. Now you can see that with respect to a phone. Let's say the phone is neutral. Let's assume it is. Let's say the application I use is neutral, permissible. If my use of that, my probable use based on the pattern in my history, if it leads to commission of the haram, that application, or maybe that smartphone, which was permissible, now becomes impermissible. And this is a rational, as we said, a rational tool of the Shara. Now, if that's true for adults, if it's true for adults, would it be truer for younger minds, less mature minds, less mature hearts? So forgive me for being direct. Would I give my son or daughter a gun? Would I? Based on the probable harm of giving them that gun. And yes, a gun could be used for good. But what's the probable harm of having a gun?
Assalamu alaikum, sisters. There's too much noise from this side. We are discussing a serious topic that affects all our lives, our children, so please pay attention. Please, just 15-20 minutes, please.
And so, the probable harm for someone younger, less mature, spiritually, less younger, less mature, intellectually, for example, that has to be considered by a parent. That has to be considered by any rational, spiritually sensitive Muslim parent. What do I allow my children to have, given the probable consequences of what that would lead to? And lastly, to end, alhamdulillah, I think we covered, almost everything. Just the most essentials of what the seminar would be. Basically, you could say in summary, there are 3 ways to use the virtual world. One way is taqwa use. One way is wara' use, and one way is ihsan use. Taqwa use means I can't use it in any way that disobeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And remember, we emphasize the importance of the spiritual heart. And we emphasize sins that are both external and internal. Actually, I must say this, that subhanAllah, when you find young men and young women who are really focused on learning, Allahu Akbar. May Allah give you, may Allah grant you, may Allah open your mind, may Allah open your heart, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you of His treasures, and may Allah make you special with Him, of His special awliya. So, taqwa use. So, actually I don't have a choice of taqwa use. There is no choice. I have to use it with taqwa use. No choice. Wara' use is to use the digital world, not to use it in that which is excessive but permissible. Spending too much time, as long as it doesn't affect, the obligatory things I must do, that's okay. It's allowed. It's not great, but it's okay. Wara' is to use the phone. Wara' use is to use the phone in the way, or to use the digital world in a way where I don't enter into access. I don't have to do that. I don't have to use it with wara' use. That's beautiful, but that's my choice. And lastly, ihsan use. Ihsan use is to use it only for what Allah loves. To only use it for what Allah loves. Do I have to use it like that? No, I don't have to. I don't have to be an ihsan user of digital technology, but it's what Allah loves. Every time I use it, it's only used in a way that He loves, for a wajib or a mustahab. Wara', I don't use it to get into any excess, but I have to use it for taqwa. Taqwa use is wajib. And so, it falls on each of us to assess the way in which we use our phones. And either to stop access, or to control access, or as they say, to provide friction, to make it harder in certain ways for me to have access, depending on my relationship with it, in the way in which it leads me to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or it diverts me from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I know we're late, but I'm going to mention one story because it's very important. A young girl approached me a while back. She comes from a good family, and she's very, very innocent. Very innocent. She was about 16 or 17 years old, and she was crying. And she said, I have to speak to you. And she said, I can't stop. And I said, why? She has an iPad, and in the iPad she has a public library, electronic public library in the iPad. And she said, I was just searching through the library, and I found material that was inappropriate. And I read it. And then I tried to stop. And I could not stop. And I tried, and I simply could not stop. I told her, you will not be able to stop because it's too tempting. Your age, what's happening to you, curiosity, the drives inside, you will not be able to stop as long as you have access to that. Do you want to stop? And she said, not only does she want to stop, but she said, I want to erase everything that I read from my mind and heart. I want to take it out of my heart. So, she was advised, you have to give your parents permission, full parental control, to control anything you access on the internet. And she did that. I saw her a while later, and I said, how are you? She She said she's doing well. I said, how is that issue? She said, what? I said, that problem we spoke about. She said, what problem? There was no problem. See, without access and accessibility, it was easy. Without access and accessibility, it was very easy. So long as it was there, it was very, very difficult. And therefore, the ulama, awliya, they teach us, especially in this modern age, what stops most of us from connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is access and accessibility. Inshallah, we stop there. Jazakumullahu khairan. With your permission, maybe we'll take 7 or 8 minutes and do the presentation for the Suhba Seminary, inshallah. If that's okay, Shaykhuna. Jazakumullahu khairan. I'll take maybe 7 minutes of your time or so, just to briefly summarize the Suhba Seminary and the program, and we have materials outside for those who wish. Turn it on.
As we're turning on the projector, I just want to say something about the programs that are in the Suhba Seminary. I've been able to experience a couple of them myself over the last few years, and they have been absolutely transformational in the hub as well as my behavior. And at the end of the day, we want to have better relationships with our spouses. We want to have better relationships with our friends and family, and be beauties in our community, beautiful in our community. And that's been the power of the programs that Sheikh Riad and Sheikh Suhba and the team there have done. So I really hope you were able to pay attention to the Suhba Seminary. And if anyone is interested in this and wants to take this program, it's incredibly accessible. You don't have to travel somewhere. It's online learning, and they've done it in a powerful way. And I encourage you to learn more about it and read it.
I'll try to be very quick. The Suhba Seminary is a program run out of Istanbul, Turkey, by Sheikh Muhtar Maghrabi, who is the founder and the mentor. You'll see essentially the aim of the seminary is to anchor every Muslim in Islam's rational and spiritual legacy both. To equip Muslims with the skills, rational and spiritual, to be able to navigate the challenges of the modern age, and probably most importantly, to allow us to make what we learn action, to practice what we learn. Because the ilm that I learn that is not practiced is useless. For all intents and purposes, it's junk ilm if it doesn't help me connect practically with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who is a student? You are a student. We built the seminary to be as flexible as possible, so someone would be able to be a student for as little as 4 hours a month and do, for example, one of these seminars. Or you can study for 2, 4, 6, 12 hours a week. What does a graduate look like? A graduate has a high SQ, not a high, actually, and a high IQ. An SQ is a spirituality quotient. A graduate would have refined akhlaq, which is the most important aspect of our deen, is the way we are inside in our character. A graduate would practice what he or she knows, and they would have this rational spiritual compass to be able to deal with the challenges in modern life. The founder and mentor is Sheikh Mukhtar Marwawi. Many of you probably know about him. He is a scholar who is very well versed in the external and internal sciences, and he's also someone who is very well versed in the secular sciences as well, as an imam, as a counselor, as a mentor, as someone who has studied mathematics and theoretical physics as well. How do we realize our vision? Basically 4 ways. One would be through ilm, and we have a number of modules that are all essential subjects in Islamic learning. Most importantly, amal. That is, the seminary is about changing the way I act, basically habitualizing me to have a schedule of remembrance and ibadah with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Suhba, both online and in person, and also through seminars like this, which are applied learning seminars. There's different streams that are at your own pace, self-paced or audit streams, but also that which leads to a certificate, both a general and an honor certificate. In terms of the modules, there are 8 of them. For those of you who are interested, we have this all in a book outside. Please feel free to take one of those if you are interested. And we also have flyers as well. But there are many modules of ilm that are studied over the course of the year, both core courses and advanced elective courses. This is an example of the Tazkiyah, purification of the soul module, the core courses over those 5 years, and also what the advanced electives will be like as well. That's an example of the Hadith module, which encompasses, for those who are serious students of ilm, everything and more that you would likely get in a postgraduate program in Islamic studies. In-person fellowship. The program is in Istanbul, and we are allowing students who are registered to come to Istanbul at any time. They may drop by for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, for a few months to take part in the classes and also to take part in the circles of dhikr. And the rest of it, inshallah, is in the book, having to do with amal and having to do with the applied learning seminars. I gave the adhan. I'll stop here. If you are interested, the flyers are outside, and also the prospectuses as well. جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك اللهم ونتوب إليك.
Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, we will be putting quickly tar, and the food is over, the flour is over there. Take one, inshallah, for yourself and sit on the tar. We are just putting the tar. Help us to put in the tar and take care of tar. Once you are done, there is a white bucket next to the door. Just put all those trash in that one, please. Do not leave anything on the tar. When we pray salat on the car, okay? Car is clean. We will pray inshallah on the car. इमाम साहब के लिए भिजवाएं स्पेशल सी एक जो 2-3 प्लेट्स हमारे गेस्ट के लिए भी। गेस्ट स्पीकर सारे आ गए, पहली लाइन में आते VIP लाइन में इंशाल्लाह।
Allahu Ekber, Allahu Ekber. Allahu Ekber, Allahu Ekber. Eşhedü en la ilahe illallah. Eşhedü en la ilahe illallah. Eşhedü enne Muhammeden Resulullah. Eşhedü enne Muhammeden Resulullah. Hayya alas-salah. Hayya alas-salah. Hayya alel-felah. Hayya alel-felah. Allahu Ekber, Allahu Ekber. La ilahe illallah.
Omar, what is he? Alright, and this guy said he didn't want it. I said I was only taking just a brown.
You didn't tell me. Listen, I should
I specifically said I was going to take the brown meat.
أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين لقد صدق الله رسوله الرؤيا بالحق لتدخلن المسجد الحرام إن شاء الله آمنين محلقين رؤوسكم ومقصرين لا تخافون فعلم ما لم تعلموا فجعل من دون ذلك فتحا قريبا هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا محمد رسول الله والذين معه أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم تراهم ركعا سجدا يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا سيماهم في وجوههم من أثر السجود ذلك مثلهم في التوراة ومثلهم في الإنجيل كزرع أخرج شطأه فآزره فاستوى على سوقه يعجب الزراع ليغيظ بهم الكفار وعد الله الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات منهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما الله الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون ما أريد منهم من رزق وما أريد أن يطعمون إن الله هو الرزاق ذو القوة المتين فإن للذين ظلموا ذنوبا مثل ذنوب أصحابهم فلا يستعجلون فويل للذين كفروا من يومهم الذي يوعدون. الله يا الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم لا مانع لما أعطيت ولا معطي لما منعت ولا راد لما قضيت ولا ينفع ذا الجد منك الجد. اللهم أعني على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our coming to the masjid, to the house of Allah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept every step and every approach that we have made to learn the deen and to be together as a Muslim community, and for our salams to one another, and for our greetings to one another, and giving a smile in someone's face for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept every good deed, especially our host tonight. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you, bless your family, bless your home, bless you with knowledge, with abundance of barakah in your health, and your wealth, and your progeny. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless our guest tonight, Sheikh Riad, and his companions, and his teachers, and the scholars. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and his families. May Allah increase him in ilm, knowledge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase the benefit that they can approach others and that others can benefit from them. آمين يا رب العالمين. اللهم اطعم مطعمنا واسقنا سقانا افطر علينا الصائمون واكل طعامكم الابرار وسلم عليكم الملائكه. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give shifa to all those of our sick in our community. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give shifa to those who have requested for dua. Those who have passed on to the next world, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for maghfirah. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevates their state in Jannah al-Firdaus and excuse their shortcomings. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.
Second location we have here is a beautiful picture today of the workshop. Allah accept from us. Allah accept from you. Make it heavy in your scales. For those who'd like to reach the prayer, we'll be in the foyer after the talk, and we'll have pamphlets and further information about Suhba Seminary for those who are interested. The schedule of the rest of the weekend is tomorrow we'll be at ISGW at 1 p.m. for another workshop where you were created for this time. He'll be in Everett in the evening at Maghrib, Saturday evening, inshallah, and then Sunday afternoon, 5:30, we'll be at the Islamic Cultural Center of Excellence, inshallah. So if you're able to visit, please let me know.
Inshallah, we are serving dinner shortly. So make 2 lines, we will get 2 lines, inshallah. And also, no lecture is done. So you are free to eat, inshallah. You can eat outside, good weather and good table outside, inshallah. And if you want to eat inside, it's up to you. But inside, be careful, outside is up to you.
Download Minecraft. It's live stream. Actually, don't touch it. It's live stream. It's live stream on YouTube. Actually, don't touch it.
Yo, wait. Yo. Where's the live one? YouTube. It's on YouTube. Mom. Stop.
Check your phone.
Bro, don't touch me, man. Stop. Bro, what a yo. No. Guys, what the? Guys, stop. Buddy, stop. That's what I'm saying. Guys, stop. But if you guys don't stop. Guys, stop. Stop. I just want to see. Loser. What are you? Guys, if you guys don't stop, you'll see what's gonna happen. Like, stop. Like, get out. If you don't stop right now, la. Guys, stop. It's live right now, guys. You guys can see it. It's live right now. Oh my. Live on YouTube right now. Dude! Let me see it. Right here. You got it in the video. Hey, yo! Hey, bro, guys, you guys should know
Don't touch it, okay?
Listen, live. Hello, yo, subscribers. What's up, man? Subscribe. And your favorite buddy you seen. What is it? Don't listen to him. Losers! I'm in a live stream. YouTube? What is it called? What is it called? I'm gonna watch it. No, I can't. I can't show my face. Do that. What are you talking about? I already have a YouTube channel. Adios. Huh? Losers.
Guys, can you subscribe to my channel?
Dude, this is sus! Hey, who you on the camera? Move on. Yo, who wants to be recorded? Me. Me, I'm the recorder. I just did like 1 minute. Leave it. It's not my La. Look at that. Yo, it's live. You're gonna be on the. And there's 4 people watching. Yo, okay, it's gonna come.